Right, hello everyone, how are we doing? Hope you're well on this fine Thursday, and it is a fine Thursday, certainly where I live. The sun is out, the weather's a bit brighter, the end of all of this COVID nonsense and lockdown is in sight. It's firmly in sight now. Hopefully we can be a good bit more positive about things. And don't worry, I'm not going to ruin the mood with today's video. There's a lot of uncertainty at Celtic. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place a little bit at the moment with the fact that we're still in the midst of a horror season. We can't escape that fact. We've got brighter days to come in the future, a bit like the weather and COVID, but we're not quite there yet. So what I've been doing a wee bit more on the channel lately is talking about some issues that are maybe more hypothetical than current Celtic issues, but issues that could soon be everyday Celtic issues. We had one earlier in the week with regards to the proposal for Colt teams playing in Scottish League 3. We've got another similar one today. Right, I'm not going to mess around too long here, but I'll just quickly say, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, now is your time to rectify that. Pause the video, subscribe. It'll take you literally 3 seconds. It's gone up for 2 seconds, but it's still only 3 seconds. You can join the thousands of people who have done it in the last couple of months. It's growing every day. You can join the party and comment below if you've got any thoughts in the video. I always read most of the comments. I like a lot of them. I try and respond where I can. But yeah, do all that. Okay, the BeNeLiga came a little bit closer to reality earlier this week with the news that 25 Belgian clubs in the top 2 divisions had approved the potential for this new league. So what is the BeNeLiga? Well, as you can probably guess from the first 4 letters, BE and then NE, it's a merger between Belgium and the Netherlands. So one top footballing league comprising clubs from 2 neighbouring countries. So the Belgian Pro League, the top division in Belgium, is to take an active role now in pursuing this possible future reality on behalf of the top clubs in Belgium. And 2025 could be the year for this new league to start. I mean, that's how real this idea is, that in a matter of years we could have a first ever cross-border league at the top level of European football. The reason I say 2025 is that is when the TV contracts in both Belgium and conveniently the Netherlands both end that year. So that's when we could be looking at the start of this new league. We've not yet heard totally what the plan is in the Netherlands. They would obviously have to have a similar kind of vote, and then loads of other things would have to be ironed out. But the chat, just reading a few things online, is that it would be an 18-team top league with 10 teams from the Netherlands and 8 teams from Belgium. This has of course been driven, like basically everything else in life, by money. At the moment, I think the Belgian and the Dutch league make around the same amount in TV per year. It's about 100 million per year. The chat is that this new league could make 400 million combined. So that is where this is all coming from, and that is the value right there. So we could have Ajax squaring off against Anderlecht, Feyenoord playing Club Brugge, Genk playing against PSV Eindhoven, Alkmaar play. You get the idea. You'll have all these teams from these top countries, and the idea is that in time this league could join the top leagues in Europe. They reckon that it could possibly be on a par with the French league, which to be honest isn't a million miles away. French league's currently the 5th biggest league in Europe. The BeNeLiga could join that kind of company. So that's where the value is. So what are UEFA saying about this? Well, surprisingly, UEFA are actually not massively against the idea of cross-border leagues. Their big stipulation though is that they want these leagues still to take part in European competition, so the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League and the new UEFA Conference League. As long as that can be worked out, they're happy to give their blessing to this. So what about the Celtic angle? Well, I think straight away when people think about cross-border competition, the immediate thought is, when are Celtic going to move to England? The reality is that this is very different from what's going on in Central Europe at the moment, in Belgium and Netherlands. The BeNeLiga is mutually beneficial to those 2 countries. They will both benefit. The top clubs in those countries will all benefit because they'll be playing in a bigger league that has a larger reputation and will be able to attract better players and better sponsorship and all that kind of stuff. Basically everything just increases because they'll be in that one single market. Sounding a bit Brexity now, but we'll move on. The difference with Celtic and this obsession that Dermot Desmond seems to have about Celtic moving to England or even creating a British league, which wouldn't be very British because it would just be Scottish and English teams and maybe Swansea and Cardiff. But anyway, that's not mutually beneficial. We, and let's face it, Rangers, who would probably be joining us down in England if it ever happened, we'd be gaining so much more than they would. We would need the move so much more than English football would. Yes, you could argue English football would be stronger if Celtic and Rangers joined the league. I think that's true. But they're not exactly not thriving without us. Their league is doing absolutely fine without Celtic. So they don't really need us. So that's the difference. So don't automatically assume that if this BeNeLiga goes ahead, we will suddenly, 10 days later start to be playing Newcastle and Fulham and Man United and teams like that every second week. So Dermot Desmond is still obsessed with the idea of Celtic moving to England, but that's not going to happen. They don't need us. Let's move on. So what could Celtic's new cross-border multinational league look like? Well, there was actually an indication earlier this year, along with some comments that I've already detailed, that were made by UEFA. And the chat was surrounding Celtic joining a new league that's been billed as the Atlantic League. Now, the big difference now from the Atlantic Leagues we heard 15 and 20 years ago was there'd be no Dutch teams, there'd be no Belgian teams now because they seem to have their own future sorted. So who would be in this new Atlantic League? Well, the reports from early January that I somehow missed at the time, I must have just been wallowing in grief after that Derby defeat at Ibrox. But the chat is that teams from Scotland would join clubs from Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and strangely enough, Ireland. Celtic aren't totally invested in this idea, and it's fair to say that the future of the club in terms of European football would be put into risk by this because we'd be competing against more teams for probably the same kind of European places. Scotland has 5 European places next season, for example. How many would an Atlantic League have? So we'd be making it difficult for ourselves. But this is the future of football. This is the way it's going. Belgian and Dutch clubs were always included in the Atlantic Leagues in the past. They've found their own plans. Maybe it's time for Celtic to do the same.